you want to just start by introducing yourself briefly as an influencer?
Okay. So my name is Georgia. And I'm a content creator from England, and I mainly post across TikTok and Instagram and YouTube.
Awesome. So what is your niche as an influencer then? What content do you specialize in?
So I'm mainly known when I started out, I think I started in 2020 maybe.
Okay.
I started out with doing something called POVs, which is kind of like acting perspectives almost, and that kind of seemed to do really well. And then as I think over the last kind of year, I've kind of tried to expand what I post on there. So I kind of do like different kind of like lifestyle and fashion, and I've kind of expanded, but that's initially what I came from, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I remember, was 2020, did you sort of get into it through, sort of around COVID time?
Yeah.
Because of the pandemic, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think you would have got into it if it wasn't for that? Or was it literally because you had more time on your hands?
I'm honestly not sure, because I was like around and doing, I think because you had Musically before and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was definitely around and doing it, but I don't think I would have had dedicated so much time to it, I think, if I didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah. And growing means, you have to be consistent, don't you, to grow?
Yeah.
So I suppose having the time helped you be more consistent. So maybe you would have done it otherwise, but not quite as consistently.
Yeah.
So it probably did help you grow, which is great.
Yeah.
That's great. So what platforms are you active on? Which is your favourite and why?
So I'm active on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. I think my favourite's definitely got to be TikTok, because it's the one that I started out on.
Okay, yeah.
So be like kind of like grown up with it almost, and kind of I understand it as well a lot better than the other platforms, and it's really fun and like creative to work with and stuff, so lots of good ideas.
Okay, that's interesting, because most influencers say they prefer Instagram.
Oh, but I know, I'm not great with Instagram.
Oh, really? Okay. That's quite unusual, but good in a way. Nice to be different, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I definitely remember back in, say, 2020 when that POV was quite popular. It was like a trend, wasn't it? So what kind of POVs do you do then, or just anything really?
I'm not sure. It honestly does vary. I know that when I started out, it was kind of just kind of following the trends and like what was around at the time. And then I kind of developed something called it's called Guess the Disorder, and it's basically bringing kind of awareness to kind of like unusual kind of disorders and things that people have to go through, and it's kind of bringing awareness to kind of that is what some people have to live with, and that did like quite well, I think. And then I remember that one doing quite well. So that was things that people used to want to see on my channel quite a lot, if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. You kind of learn what your audience likes, don't you, to do more of it in the future, I suppose. Was it that video that you think, sort of went, not viral, but, kind of kicked off your career as an influencer? Do you get what I mean? Because a lot of influencers often say, oh, it was this one video that, really attracted a lot of attention and you grew from there.
Yeah, so I know that when I first started out, I think it kicked off quite quickly after starting to do that kind of topic, and I think it was developing views. And then when it was on like a good kind of, I think it hit about like the 30 kind of thousand mark.
Okay.
And I was kind of like, oh, something's happening.
Yeah.
And when I started to do that kind of Guess the Disorder like awareness thing, I think there was one video and the views spiked to like 2.8 million.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that definitely classes as viral then, I reckon. That's amazing. And I bet followers respect, the fact that you are trying to raise awareness as well, like not just doing all the TikTok dances that people do. Do you get what I mean? Like there is more reason and value behind the content that you make.
Yeah, they definitely like to they like to engage in the kind of the comments. Like, can you do this? Like, this is what I struggle with, and I'm like, yeah, cool. But I like to do a lot of like research and stuff into it as well, because I know that like it's not something that I like to do research and stuff and actually get a proper understanding. So well, if that makes sense, and people do seem to.
Yeah, I suppose you want to know that you are correct almost before, especially when you have a big audience. You don't want to be like saying things that aren't right or whatever. So I bet you've learned quite a lot through doing it as well yourself.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how long have you been an influencer for then? So you kind of touched on this. You said 2020 you started making content.
I think it did. Obviously, I've been on there quite a long time, but I think when it actually started, that I kind of like realized, oh yeah, I think it's actually becoming something that I can actually.
Oh, okay.
It was from about 2020, 2021 that it was kind of
okay.
like.
So about three years ish then, maybe around that time. Yeah. How long have you been doing it before? It kind of kicked off. Do you remember?
Oh, I don't know. I know that I was on it when it was Musically before TikTok.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're quite in good practice by then, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, TikTok is quite a little bit different to Musically, I suppose, isn't it? Like it's not an exact copy, but
yeah, they definitely made lots of changes, but
yeah, great. So, what is the secret to your success as an influencer then? If you had to pick one, that's a very hard question, I know.
I don't know. I think obviously you've got to kind of follow trends and like work out what's quite popular at the time. But I also think original content makes you different. I seem to like that. I think kind of go outside the box and try to be creative and not like everyone else, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you seem to stick out and people seem to like that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because there's so many influencers these days, isn't there? Especially in certain niches. So it's about like what makes you different to everyone else. But do you ever struggle to like take inspiration from other creators without, seeming to copy them? Or what's the hack behind that? Because it must be quite tricky sometimes.
I'm not sure. Sometimes you kind of sometimes you can give them credit for like that idea.
Okay, yeah.
Come to that and basically just like explain. There's like if you put it in the caption, you can like credit to thingy for this idea. But also you can kind of put your own twist on it, if that makes sense. So kind of take their ideas, have a little think, and then like kind of twist it. Which
it's all about creativity, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, have you ever like asked other influencers, can I use this idea or can I recreate it? Or is it kind of the etiquette or whatever they say, the fact that if you put it in the caption, then that's kind of crediting them automatically, do you reckon?
I mean, it depends because sometimes I think it is quite widely known that if you, tag them and like credit, then it's like respectful almost because you can like converted it. But also, if you are friends, because I know that I'm friends with some influencers, you can also ask them, be like, is it okay if I take this?
True, yeah.
And they're like, oh, yeah, that's fine. And
yeah.
Then you kind of not put credit in there. But, sometimes you could just credit them or sometimes you can ask them. It really depends on the person.
But. Yeah. Have you made a lot of friends through influencing then, sort of online?
Yeah.
Have you met many of them in person or are they mostly just online at the moment?
I mean, most of them are online, but I have met a few of them because there's like lots of like there was something called Talkfest.
Okay, is that like an influencer event?
Yeah, so you can have there's ones like Social in the City. And, And I went to that one like it's almost like it's not a festival, but it's kind of like a gathering and you meet creators.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
Cool.
I definitely met some of my friends there, and it was a really great experience. But I still do catch up with them online and stuff. So.
Yeah, paid off in more ways than one. Then got some friends out of it as well.
Yeah.
So, what are your current goals as an influencer? Then, where do you want to go from here?
I'm honestly not sure. I really do want to kind of try to grow my audience and produce great content and things like that. But I also do going forward want to try and make it into like a bigger career. If that makes sense.
So earning more from it.
Yeah. To spend more time and things like that.
Yeah. Do you ever worry that if it became like your main earner, then it might add a bit too much stress, or you might not enjoy it as much, or do you think you enjoy it enough to think, yeah, I could do this full time?
Yeah, no, I definitely love to consider to do it full time, but it can be stressful sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's true. And it's very time consuming as well. I think a lot of people don't realise how much time actually goes into being an influencer or just making content in general, especially TikTok videos. How long would you say each video takes you to make on average? Because I know it's a lot longer than most people think.
It depends on the kind of video you do.
That's true.
If it's just a standard like POV or something like that, honestly, like you do a few attempts and then kind of pick one you like and stuff like that. If it's one that is like Yes, a Disorder, which is like what people really seem to like on my channel, then it honestly varies, but it takes like you've got to do like research beforehand and and I think it takes about 30-40 minutes to film it, and then you've got to edit that on top of it. So when you actually come around to each video, it's probably just over an hour.
Yeah. And as well, if it's something that you don't have as much knowledge on, you're going to spend more time researching, aren't you? So it could be an hour and a half, which is quite a lot of time if you think about it. Most people think you just whack it out in like 10 minutes, but it's definitely not the case. Do you have a certain follower count goal, or do you just kind of let that happen as it happens?
I think I just kind of let it happen as it happens.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for where I am, if that makes sense. Like every time it grows, I'm like really grateful for where I am.
Yeah. How many followers do you have at the moment then, TikTok and the other platforms you're on? If you can recall, roughly.
I'm not sure. I know that TikTok, I think, is about 115,000.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And Instagram, I think, is a couple of thousand. And then YouTube's about 50,000, I think.
That's amazing. Some good milestones there.
Yeah.
Cool. So where do you see yourself as an influencer in 5 years' time then?
I mean, I'd definitely like to be able to kind of develop it and grow and kind of expand it almost, and have some new ideas and kind of grow with the channel, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
See where it goes.
Yeah. Do you reckon in 5 years' time you would be able to make it into your sort of main earner, or do you think that's too small of a time frame?
I mean, I'd definitely love to try.
Yeah.
Like, it'd be great, but
I suppose you never know, but you're going in the right direction, I'd say, anyway. So what is your dream brand to work with then? Because this is another hard one, because there's so many cool brands out there, isn't there?
There really is. Some of the brands that I've really worked with, I've been like blessed massively, and I'm really excited to work with them. But I think going forward, maybe like Pretty Little Thing, or like what boutique or something like that. Like there's got some big, quite some big like clothing brands or something like that I'd definitely love to work with. But there's quite a few. So it's really
yeah. So Pretty Little Thing may be the main one then. I'm sure that can happen. What brands have you worked with so far, or currently working with?
So I've worked with Shein.
Oh wow, okay.
I've worked with Logitech. I've worked with like L'Oreal, Garnier, so some like really big
ones. Yeah.
Quite excited to work with.
Do you reach out to them to ask to work with them, or do you usually let brands reach out to you, or a bit of both? Because I know different influencers have different opinions on that.
Yeah, it's a bit both. It's like sometimes they reach out to you, and sometimes if you really want to work with a brand, then reach out to them. Go ahead, because you've got nothing to lose, and most of the time they'll come back and propose something. So.
Yeah, and even if they don't, at least then you know. Whereas if you didn't even try, then you'll definitely never be able to work with them. But another thing, going back to sort of follower milestones and stuff, again, I think like making it your full-time earner, if you're too intent on like a certain number of followers, or like you're too intent on working with a certain brand, it can, again, like I said earlier, sort of take the enjoyment away a little bit, put a bit too much pressure. So I think your attitude of sort of go with it is definitely more helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you kind of try to focus on it too much, I think you have to kind of obviously take it quite seriously. And things like that, but you also have to have kind of like a kind of go with the flow attitude.
Yeah.
I know if you focus too much on it, I know for a fact that when I've been trying to dish out like content and like try to juggle that on top of things, and it gets quite stressful. So I think you have to go in between, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Do you use, because obviously consistency is quite important, and you have to take it seriously to that extent, do you know what I mean, to keep followers and grow your audience. Do you use scheduling tools on, I don't think you can on TikTok, but Instagram and YouTube? Do you like schedule posts in advance to make sure you're getting that content out, or are you pretty all right at doing it as you go?
I mean, sometimes I do that, but also sometimes I'll like make notes of like what days I need to post, what I'm gonna make like content like ahead of time, because it definitely saves a lot of stress.
Yes,
because if you come to say you're gonna post on Monday, and you kind of come up and you're like, oh, what do I post? If you kind of have an idea in advance, it's a lot like less stressful. Yeah.
Do you spend quite a lot of time sort of content planning then, or if you have the idea, do you kind of just get on and do it there and then?
Bit of both.
Yeah.
If you have like an idea, you can either kind of write it down or do it. But it does definitely help if you kind of schedule when you're going to post and stuff.
Yeah, I suppose it depends what you're doing in the moment as well, because you can't just ditch something just to make the content. So I suppose that's where you'd write it down. But yeah, it's definitely good to be organised. So what is your best piece of advice for those wanting to become or grow as an influencer within your niche then?
I think yeah, well, following like the kind of make your own kind of content, be creative.
Yeah.
Don't be too scared to go outside of the box, but ultimately, if you want to do it, do it. Like,
yeah, nothing's stopping you.
Yeah, don't let things stop you. Just do it.
Yeah. Did you ever have the issue? I know a lot of sort of young people as well have the issue of when they start on social media, they kind of worry about being judged for it, or you know, their friends seeing it or anything like that. Did you ever have any of those worries, or did you always just kind of get on with it and get really good feedback?
I mean, I definitely, yeah. When I started doing it and kind of grew up doing it. Sorry, I definitely struggled with quite a lot of bullying and stuff.
Oh, really? Okay.
Around it and things, but honestly, it is great if you can do it. So
yeah,
don't listen to them.
Yeah. And it always happens when you don't have that many followers, and then when you get loads of followers, they come back and go, "Oh, that's actually really cool." So, you know, you kind of just got to push through and ignore them, haven't you?
Yeah.
How old were you when that happened then? How old were you when you kind of started with your pages, roughly?
When I'm not quite sure, like, working out the year, but I think when I actually started to post and things, I think I must have been about 14, 15. Like,
oh, wow, okay, yeah. Prime, like, secondary school age then, isn't it, as well? Yeah.
So, yes, like, secondary school, you're in secondary school. And then people are, like, really horrible, and you just really try for it. But realistically, it's, like, just ignore them.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, definitely. So I've got a few bonus questions then. So can you share some insights into your audience demographics and interests? So is there a pattern amongst the kind of people that follow you, or is it pretty random?
It is quite random, to be honest. I think most of the people that follow me are kind of between like ages of like 12 and 20, maybe.
Okay.
That is like kind of when most people follow me, but it really can be random. Like,
I suppose as well that you're not in as much a specific niche, you know, doing the POVs and stuff. It can be anything, can't it? Which means that you can get any kind of followers, I guess, which is good because it means, you know, you're probably more likely to get more followers because it isn't your content isn't restricted to anyone in particular, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
How old are you then, as far as, you know, your audience relating to you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 17.
Okay. So I guess it kind of makes sense that your audience is a similar age, if that makes sense. Because they can probably, you know, relate to you a bit more and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get, Because I also, like, tried to expand on, like, because kind of, like, where I've kind of varied the content I post now, it's definitely relatable to people my age and things like that, so.
Yeah, definitely. So how do you choose the brands and campaigns you collaborate with, and what criteria are important to you? Or are you quite relaxed with the kinds of brands you work with? Because I know some, you know, you get that divide where some influencers will work with any brands just because they want to earn from it. And then others are more sort of specific about the types of brands they work with. So where do you say you fall in that?
I mean, I am quite relaxed, but I do kind of check. So, for example, say like a brand reached out and they had like, I do go through them and like check like their morals and stuff.
Yeah.
If someone came to me and they were like, I don't know, say there was a brand and they had like animal cruelty or something like that, I wouldn't want them because it goes against like, I'm quite like specific, but also not too specific that it's only to a specific group, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I do go through and check that. Like,
so you're more specific about the values of the brand than actually what the brand is sort of selling or whatever. Yeah.
But then again, it's something like, I think I have been offered to do things with brands before. It's like, you know, when you get the like the pills and stuff that help with like your like body bacteria and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do stuff like that.
Okay. No, that's too scary. I wouldn't do that either.
No.
They probably don't work anyway.
Yeah, no, I do definitely kind of work out who I want to work with, if that makes sense. But then I definitely am quite chill compared to like other people that I know.
Yeah, I think as well some other influencers who it is their full-time career and their entire income, they kind of feel as though they have to take every opportunity to get more money, if that makes sense. So I suppose with it not being your full-time like income, I guess, it's kind of nicer in that way at the moment. Means you can be a little bit more picky. So what has been your most memorable or successful brand collaboration, and what made it stand out from the others? And that will be our last question.
I definitely enjoyed working with Logitech. They were quite fun to work with because they wanted different like kind of content to what you normally get. So say like a brand reach out to you and they want like unboxing videos or stuff like that. They wanted me to have like a very specific kind of video they wanted, and it was definitely really fun to film that, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. What is Logitech actually? Because I've never heard of it.
So they are like a tech and electronics company and stuff. So they like keyboards, computers, that kind of thing. They do.
Do you find a lot of brands are quite specific with the content they want from you, or you know, as opposed to brands that just as long as you promote the content, they're not really bothered about how you do it, if that makes sense?
It really does vary. Like, I think most times out of not, they do want specific kind of results from you. So they do a specific layout or like a script or things like that. There is definitely brands that are kind of like, we're gonna do this, just kind of do what you want to do, what you think works. So they can get both sides, if that makes sense.
Do you find it more fun when you get to do whatever you kind of want with it, or do you quite like it when they give you a structure? I suppose it's less thinking for you in that sense, isn't it?
So a script makes it easier because they can kind of give you something to go by, if that makes sense. You don't have to worry about the kind of creativity, but also if they kind of say like, we're happy for you to do what you want with it, it's really fun because you can kind of come up with like creative ideas and things. So.
Yeah, I guess if you have more time on your hands for a weekend maybe, then you'd be like, oh yeah, it'd be nice to just do whatever I want. But maybe if you're struggling for time, then it's nice to be told what to do and you can probably get it done in a smaller amount of time, I suppose.
Yeah.